say that in 1946 the Italians, women and for the first time, and men decided to choose the Republic as a form of state for Italy. So that's what we are celebrating today. And we are here at the Italian Cultural Institute because, as you know, this is a brand new library that we inaugurated a few months ago with the presence of the Minister of Culture. But today we are here to tell you that starting from tomorrow, the 3rd of June, you can have access to the books through the website of the Institute and ask for consultation of all the books that are here in this room. We have many other books that have to be included in the list, but for the moment and starting from tomorrow you can have access to it. You will find the hours of opening and everything in the website of the Institute. So go and see what is in the website, even if the new designated director, where is it? Yes, of the Italian Cultural Institute said to us today that the website is not good. We do agree, it's not good, it's not our fault, it's decided in Rome for all the Italian Cultural Institute, but they are trying to change it and to make it better. So I'm very happy personally that Giorgio Van Straten will be the one to change the website and not But anyway, welcome here. It's very important for us to have this possibility to have this presentation here. And the presentation is about a book by Ruth Ben-Ghiat. She has written this book, which is very interesting. It's titled Italian Fascism, Empire, Cinema. Donatella Baldini will tell you something more about the author, and thank you very much, Ruth, for being here with us to have this first presentation in our new library.
Thank you, Consul General.
I see.
Thank you all for being here at the Institute. I will join the Consul General in thanking Ruth Ben-Ghiat for being here for the presentation of this book. Professor Ben-Ghiat is Professor of Italian Studies and History at New York University. We have had the pleasure to have her as a guest speaker in the past, and we're very glad that she agreed to be here to present her latest book on Italian cinema during the fascist period. Ruth Ben-Ghiat is a specialist of the 20th century, in particular of the first half of the 20th century, and she's written extensively on the period in Italy. She's published not only in the States, but also in Italy by the prestigious publisher Il Mulino. Today she will present her book, and the book will give us some elements that will help us integrate our understanding of why on the 2nd of June of 1946 Italians voted for the Republic. Thank you, Ruth Ben-Ghiat.
If you can try to move this side, because maybe you can watch some images in the screen.
So, and this I'll switch chair. If
Yes.
someone needs two chairs, if someone would like to sit.
Please, please.
translation, and I thank the Consul General Natalia Quintavalle, the Vice Consul Isabella Periotta, and the Attaché for Cultural Affairs, Donatella Baldini. I'm really very happy to be here, and it's wonderful to be standing in this library, which will now enter a new chapter of its own life as a repository of some of the best works of Italian thought and culture. So it's a double honor to be here for your national celebration and in this beautiful space. So I've written a book, and nowadays it's mostly ebook, and you're allowed one hardback, and this is it. So it's a book about quite a formative period in Italian film history, and the theme of this year is, the cinema, the film, cinema. And this is the interwar period. And there are years in which the fascist regime devoted massive amount of resources to the cinema. And so it's during this period that a lot of institutions, such as Cinecittà and Istituto Luce, which are still very influential in the landscape today, they were created during this time. These were also the years of fascism's empire, right? And the empire formally took its name, as many of you know, from the Italian East African Empire, declared in 1936. But at its peak, the Empire of Italians, which nowadays, if you say to people, I'm writing about the Italian Empire, they think ancient Rome. Right? It's not something that's very well known, certainly outside of Italy. And this was one reason I wanted to write this book. So at its peak, it included, as most of you will know, Libya, Albania, the Dodecanese Islands, and parts of France, Greece, and Yugoslavia. So it's much more substantial than people might think. So my starting point in the book is the invasion of Ethiopia, which happened 70 years ago this fall. And Ethiopia was a League of Nations member, and so the invasion caused what we would today maybe say was an image management problem for the regime of a scale it had never witnessed before. So there were public protests abroad, including here in Harlem. There were very lively protests, and also in Buenos Aires. There were Red Cross investigations over the use of gas. There were sanctions on Italy by the League of Nations. So this was a kind of propaganda crisis, and it led the government to really kind of wake up and exert much larger control over all of culture. And it led to a closer collaboration between the media, all kinds of media, and the military. So the films that I talk about in this book, and I wanted, it was a lot more work, and I was cursing myself for taking this on, but I wanted to do both non-fiction and fiction. So the Istituto Luce, newsreels, documentaries, as well as fiction. And they come out of this climate. They are really a product of the climate of these years. So I followed from 1935 through the loss of the colonies in 1943. So the main theme of the book was how the fascists, which were coming into the colonial game later than some other countries, they faced a challenge in trying to imprint their own imperial film style with respect to the much better known French colonial films, the British desert films, and of course Hollywood. Hollywood was the big power during this period. And it had its own exotic films, starring Marlene Dietrich. It had all kinds of Orientalist films. So before 1936, Libya, which was, you see here, this is the setting of a film made in Libya, very photogenic Sahara Desert. That had been the main setting. But after 1936, the fascists thought, why don't we market East Africa? Nobody has ever seen East Africa. And so there was this push to make these empire films shot in Somalia, shot in Ethiopia, as a way of kind of making a market niche for Italy. So it's very much a government policy that has economic repercussions in mind. Okay? So I want to show you some slides from the films that I look at. These are films that have never been talked about much before, shot in Ethiopia and Somalia, as well as Libya. And a very important thing is that they feature African actors, often as leads. Now these people are not always credited, and they've kind of, I've tried to resurrect their identities, and they star alongside Italy's biggest actors. So I'm sorry for those of you who can't see it. This is Fosco Giacchetti, who starred in many, many films. So these films were not minor films as we might think today. Some of them were total flops. Some of them were not very, they're not very good films, all of them. Some of them are bad films. Some of them are really good films aesthetically. But they starred the most popular actors of the time, Amedeo Nazzari and Fosco Giacchetti, who was always the commander in these films. So here he is with a Somali man, Hassan Mohammed, in this, the two leads with equal screen time in this Somali film shot entirely in Somalia called Sentinelle di Bronzo, about the Askari, the Dubat, who served alongside the Italians. And this film, to my knowledge, no one has written on this film at all, and there was nothing I had to go on except what I found in the press. And these are some more, another actor who is credited, and he's kind of the bad African. There's always a good African and a bad African. And he's threatening Doris Duranty, because not only the men had the most popular actors, it was also the women. So Doris Duranty had, she specialized in kind of ethnic roles. So here she's a Somali woman, and she has her face darkened. Then she plays a Levantina, which is a very vague identity, but that's what she is in another film shot in Ethiopia. And then she plays an Albanian, and on and on. She was kind of the kind of femme fatale of ethnic roles. And so she was also a major actress of the time. Here we have another Somali-based film about which nothing is written, and it was a co-production with France. So one of my points in the film is these movies were international productions. Sometimes they were also internationally influenced. So again, they're not, they're trying to market a national style, but they're very cosmopolitan in a way. So this is Faye, and she only is known as Faye in the film, and she's not even in the credits, alongside an Argentinian, Italian, French actor. And this was made, its title in French was L'Esclave Blanc, about a white man who becomes a love slave of a beautiful African woman, but that wasn't going to go with the censors in fascist Italy, so the Italian title is Giungla Nera. However, you cannot see the Italian edition at all, so I had to work off of the French. So there's always these problems. And here we have, again, Fosco Giacchetti, and you have one other important thing is that these were military films, right? And they featured extras, but who were actual soldiers. And so you have a lot of realist, it's before neorealism, you have a lot of use of non-actors, soldiers, or tribespeople, Italian soldiers as well. So you have shooting on location, you have a documentary aesthetic, and so these films are very interesting, lead into neorealism, even though their politics are not exactly the same, we can say. So here is Duranty as she's called the Levantina, Mailu, an invented name. So let's stop here. And so one of the appeals and the things I found most interesting in these films is that they're very rich, and they're very influenced by all kinds of other film traditions. And so there's this kind of contradiction where the Italians said, the fascists said, these have to be the films of our cultural autarky.